Ali or Isa says, what to do when your heart is hardened? And this needs a lecture. Allah Azza wa Jal, as mentioned in the hadith, does not look at our bodies or our wealth. How much do we have in the bank account? Rather, He looks at our hearts and our deeds. This is what Allah Azza wa Jal looks at. Hence, the heart is the most important organ in your body because it makes it or breaks it. It can be filled with Iman and it can be filled with hypocrisy and disbelief. Allah Azza wa Jal tells us that Ibrahim said in the Quran that salvation should only be for those who come on the day of judgment with a healthy, pure heart. And I will not get into the discussion. How can the heart be the center of feelings, of choice, of intellect, while the brain has these powers? This is a long topic. All what we understand in the Quran is that this flesh is the center for all of these things that we talk about, such as the choices, the feelings, the love and hate, the belief and disbelief. So this heart, as the Prophet said, ﷺ, there is a morsel in the body. If it is fixed, then the whole body is fixed. And if it is bad or rotten or corrupt, the whole body is corrupt. It is the heart, the Prophet says. So when you have a hardened heart, you have a big problem. There are things that soften the heart, and there are things that harden the heart. For example, the Prophet said, ﷺ, avoid excessive laughter, because excessive laughter kills the heart. When all our day and night we're engaged in laughing, cracking jokes, watching stand-up comedies, watching comic movies and comedian movies or comedy movies, and reading comic books that are all, making you laugh, this would lead to your heart's death. And by death, we don't mean cardiac attack, rather than we mean the ability to love Islam and to taste the sweetness of the Quran and to enjoy salat, etc. The Prophet ﷺ told us about how sins impact our hearts, and that every sin, a black dot is placed on the heart. And if a person quits and asks Allah for forgiveness, it's erased. And if he does not, then the dots continue to occur until the heart is overwhelmed and becomes as dark as night. The Prophet said, ﷺ, whoever misses 3 consecutive Friday prayers, and with the lockdown, one is not included because this is forced upon us, it's not by choice. So whoever misses without a legitimate reason, Allah will place a seal on his heart. And how would that be? It's not a physical seal that you see. It is simply that Allah seals your heart so that when you hear the truth, you're unable to process it. When you hear the Quran being recited, you don't feel that you're understanding it or enjoying it. When you hear the adhan calling for the prayer, you see everybody going to the masjid and you're the only one who is going in the other direction. People are looking at you. You're not aware of any of this because you're heedless, you're neglectful. So hearts are hardened by sins, are dried by not remembering Allah and reading the Quran, are stiffened, they become stiff when you don't mix with righteous practicing company. This is why the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that a wolf attacks a stray sheep that went away from the pack, from the herd. And shaitan attacks those who are alone, don't have righteous company, don't mix with righteous people. This is why your heart is hardened. Your heart is softened by Quran, by dhikr, by prayer, by listening to lectures, by attending circles of knowledge, by reading beneficial books, but it is hardened by listening to music, by watching haram movies and soap operas and the likes, by looking at haram pictures, nude women or men, pornography. All of these tarnish the purity of your heart. So it is like a tree where pure water from the river is irrigating it, and sewer water is also irrigating it. The tree inevitably is inclined to what goes into its veins more. So whether it is najis or tahir, this depends on the amount that enters it. Likewise, your heart. So how to soften your heart? This again requires a lot of talk, which we don't have time for, but there is a beautiful hadith, and it's a glimpse. There are many hadiths that shows you how to soften your heart, where the Prophet said to his companion, alayhi salatu wasalam, do you like to soften your heart and to attain the things you need and want? And I said, yes, of course. I need to attain wealth to buy a new car or a house or to pay my debts. How to do that? The Prophet said, if you were to wipe over the head of an orphan, this would soften your heart and helps you attain what you want. Subhanallah, this is the last thing I could ever imagine to be of such great reward. Wiping over the head of an orphan, of course this is a metaphorical gesture of being kind, of being loving, of being merciful, of providing for that orphan. Not just going randomly in an orphanage and just wipe their heads and then leave. No, this is not what it was meant. It is referring to showing love and compassion to this broken heart, an orphan who lost his father and he's below the age of puberty, needs compassion, needs mercy, needs love. So there are so many things that would soften your heart. But as for now, fill your heart with Quran, with dhikr, with worshipping Allah, with listening to lectures, being around practicing righteous people instead of being around people who do not relate to the deen, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best.